If you don't have meat in your diet, you're never going to have optimal health.
What is a proper human diet?
A proper human diet is going to be ancestrally appropriate, a diet that does not increase your risk of disease, a diet that reverses chronic diseases that the average doctor would say is chronic and progressive.
While I support carnivore, I'm never going to get on the plants are trying to kill us boat. And I don't think plants are what got us here as a society with all the metabolic health and issues that we have.
Don't eat commodities. Eat food. Commodities make the big corporations billions of dollars in profit, and they also make billions of people fat and sick and fatigued and miserable.
Most Americans are accidentally plant-based because they think because they're not vegan or they're not saying they're plant-based that they're not plant-based, but all the things on the shelf are mostly made of plants.
You eat a standard American diet, you're 70% plant-based, but it's the commodity plants. It's not actual real vegetables and fruits and berries that you're eating. You're eating the grains, the beans, the vegetable seed oils, and the sugar. Because out of those four ingredients, you can literally make anything in the supermarket. And what that leaves you with is malnourished obesity.
What would you say are some of the biggest lifestyle shifts that modern humans need to make in order to live like our ancestors again?
They ate meat as much and as often as they could. You want to be out in the sun. The sun's not bad for you. The sun's good for you.
Yeah, well, we died when we were 33 back then. Look how long humans live for now, but no one talks about how sick they are. Like, who cares if you're 99 if you don't know who you are?
So how do you balance this type of lifestyle?
Humans are incredibly hard to kill. We had the clinic burnt down, our house burnt down. So we were basically tested. When you go through a lot of things like that, you either adapt or you don't.
Dr. Ken Berry is a board-certified family physician and best-selling author of several books, including the popular Lies My Doctor Told Me. He has practiced family medicine for over 2 decades, is a public speaker, and creator of The Proper Human Diet. Niesha Salas-Berry is a registered nurse and lactation counselor with nearly 2 decades experience in the health field. She has amassed more than 200,000 subscribers on her wildly popular YouTube channel, where she shares tips on lifestyle, motherhood, nutrition, and wellness. I'm pleased to introduce you to none other than Dr. Ken Berry and Niesha Salas-Berry.
Dr. Ken and Neisha Berry, I'm excited to have you. We just sat down and, as they would say, broke bread. We had some lunch, but I guess in our case, we cut steak.
Yes.
And had a nice little lunch together. But I'm excited to have you here and talk about all things ancestral living, learn a little bit more about you, and I guess a lot of bit about ancestral living. So I guess my first question to you guys is, what kind of got you started in this space, ancestral living?
Yeah. So the thing that got me started was that I was a classically trained family doctor, and I got severely obese and pre-diabetic. That's in Tennessee, things have to make common sense. People don't take their car to a mechanic whose car won't start. And so people don't like taking nutrition advice from fat doctors. And so I had to account for that and figure out how to fix myself. And starting 15 years ago, I started down the path, and I initially was like, eat the rainbow, plants are magic, and believed that fervently. I thought, no, that's got to be the truth. But then I kept reading, kept searching, kept researching, and come to the point where I am now, where I consider plants to be optional, a garnish, a spice, and the food is meat.
Yeah, so it took you were following that advice, the advice that you were teaching your patients, but it wasn't working for you.
Exactly. Actually, when I first got on the scale and went, oh, wow, I'm fat, I was not following any advice. I was just eating junk, right? But so then when I saw the weight on the scale and I saw my A1C, which was 6.1, almost type 2 diabetic,
Wow.
I was like, oh, crap. And so then I did start following the advice. Specifically, I printed out the American Diabetes Association's handout of what to eat, what not to eat, what to do. And so I started eating that way, whole grain bread, no saturated fat, definitely no bacon, lots of fruit smoothies, lots of fruits and vegetables, and started jogging 3 days a week. And after doing that for about 90 days, I jumped on the scale and got my blood reach tested, and both were slightly worse.
Wow.
It had not helped at all. And as a family doctor, one of the main things I'm looking for in patients, but also in this instance in myself, is signal. Did what I do make a noticeable difference? Can I see noticeable improvement from that? And after 90 days, the answer was emphatically no. It made no positive improvement whatsoever in my health markers. And it was at that point, that was kind of my epiphany. It was like, okay, so maybe I don't know a damn thing about human nutrition. Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board.
How many years ago was this?
About 15 years ago
Wow.
now. Yeah, it's been a minute. And so initially I'm like, okay, plant-based, maybe I'm not going to be a vegan, so no, but maybe, you know, Mediterranean plant-based, eat the rainbow, that sort of thing. And then I started looking at more paleo primal.
Yeah.
I read Dr. Robert Atkins' Diet Revolution. I bought that for $0.25 at a rummage sale and read that. And I kept going, and it kept slowly but inevitably leading me towards, if you don't have meat in your diet, you're never going to have optimal health. And then some of us need even more meat than others. Some of us need to eat only meat. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm very happy that I found this sweet spot.
Yeah. And then when you were experiencing your health issues, were you guys together at this point?
That was way before.
That was before. And you
Yeah.
were going through some of your own health issues?
No, those started when I met him, basically. No, they probably started about a year before I met him. I was 26 when things started going a little bit sideways. I wasn't eating great. I was an LPN at the time. I was working midnights and evenings and overtime and eating stuff out of the vending machine, not taking really good care of myself, going to downtown Nashville till 3 a.m., treating my body like crap. I also got breast implants, which later on I would pretty much understand is what kicked off my autoimmune disease, along with some traumatic events in my life. And so by the time I got to Ken, these symptoms were pretty much hitting a crescendo, and they just kept getting worse and kept getting worse. Was in RN school, couldn't focus, couldn't sleep, gained 45 pounds from the time I met him till the time that we figured out what was going on. And brain fog, severe brain fog, low energy, low libido, just hateful. Just a hateful human being. I didn't feel good. I didn't like the way I looked, all kinds of stuff. And so we finally figured out that I had Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, and that's autoimmune disease, which I really think probably was kicked off by breast implants. And but then he went paleo, brought me on board to paleo. I hate paleo. It's a lot of quinoa and weird stuff like that. So that's what he was feeding me anyways.
Yeah.
Then he went keto, and I was working in labor and delivery as an RN then, and all of the doctors that I work with, we talked. We were all very close, and they were like, keto's crazy. You shouldn't do that. You need carbs, especially you have a thyroid problem. You don't want to do that. But I did it anyways because I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I feel like absolute trash. So within about 7 days, my symptoms greatly improved, enough for me to think maybe there's something to this. And then the longer I did it, the better I felt, the more weight I lost, the stricter I got. And before I knew it, I was doing carnivore for a few weeks too. So yeah.
So it was a gradual progression. When you started doing keto, was this a whole food keto?
When we started, there weren't that many products. It was very early in the keto.
Yeah.
It
Back
wasn't
then it was,
mainstream.
Fat bombs. You would
Yeah.
make fat
Fat
bombs,
bombs.
Oh,
right?
right.
You know, like
Right.
chocolate or truffle or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yep.
keep them in the
Strawberry
fridge.
cream cheese,
Yeah.
extra butter, very high fat, but whole foods based because we didn't really have the option to get the keto junk food at that time. So we were lucky. But a lot of people bridge into using the products, which can be tools, but
Yeah.
not the best.
And so now you've bridged into this carnivore-ish or maybe even full-on carnivore style lifestyle, and that's helped, lose weight. We're talking help thyroid, we're talking all these other issues that you guys were experiencing, and this has been over a decade now. You've been on this journey and now encouraging and teaching and helping others to live the same lifestyle. I'm curious, before we jump into more of the ancestral living tips and practices that you guys do on a daily basis, I want to know how you balance this content creation, work, and family, because you're very busy. You're obviously healthy, very healthy people, but you're very busy. So how do you balance this type of lifestyle? Because there's a lot of people out there that want to be healthy, but they're struggling. They feel that there's not enough hours in the day, but how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't think about that much because it's just our life.
You're going to get two completely different answers.
But it's a valid point because we have 2 young kids, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and we have a farm full of animals, and we live in a 1,100 square foot house. We don't have a studio, we don't have a production team, we don't have an editor. We do all that ourselves, and so I guess since you put it like that, we're fairly busy. And but we've just learned, I guess, how to blend those things into being able to still create content, still eat as clean of a diet as we possibly can, get out in the morning sun, get out and play on the farm with the kids, be active. But we're very busy, but somehow we managed to pull it off.
Yeah. It's a lot easier for him.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Men always get off a little bit easier, but for me, it took a very long time to understand. You're a content creator.
Yeah.
You can easily burn out
Very
taking
easily.
on too many responsibilities. So I hit a breaking point. What was that, a year and a half ago? And I just stopped making any content and had to really dig deep and reprioritize things. And so now we have a very strict schedule. This is when it's family time. This is when it's content work time. This is and then we just don't defer from that.
Yeah.
And if the people we work with don't like that, that's okay. We're not the people for them. But that took a long time because for a long time we were working full-time jobs while doing YouTube. I was working as a nurse. He was running the clinic. We did IVF. We were doing all of this at the same time.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Right. We had the clinic burnt down, our house burnt down. So we were basically tested. And when you go through a lot of things like that, you either adapt or you don't.
Right.
And we were able to adapt, but we have a good support system at home too. My family lives close and we have good friends, and that helps a lot.
That's absolutely the most important thing, when it comes to healthy lifestyles. You guys both follow, of course, a more animal-based approach, and each, it's helped you uniquely with your own health goals. How do you both follow a slightly different dietary approach? I mean, maybe you need one thing, Niesha, than you need, Dr. Ken. But how do you kind of do that daily? Because there's couples out there that maybe the wife wants to live a little bit different of a lifestyle, or maybe her body actually needs certain things, but they're making the same meals. How do you kind of navigate that, living in the same house, making the same meals?
Yes, and it is a bit of a challenge, but I think we pull it off smoothly. I'm 99.5% carnivore, and I am a sugar addict, love sweets, and fatten very easily and develop diabetes very easily. And so right off the bat, there's several things that we are different because she doesn't love sweets, right? And she doesn't fatten as easily. And so therefore, we're going to eat a little different style of diet. And I have to be as close to carnivore as possible or I will gain weight. And so I'm hanging out right now at about 225. And at my heaviest, I was 297. And so also I want to never be pre-diabetic again because even though you're not diabetic, the damage is still being done.
Right.
And so I have to be as strict carnivore as I can possibly be. And I also have to limit dairy. Some people don't have to do that on carnivore. But I'm also a dairy addict. I literally could live on cheese and ricotta and sour cream and whatever, any kind of dairy, and drink heavy cream for a living.
It's delicious.
I love it. I love it. But that I am just sensitive enough to the caseins and the wheys that I'll start to get a poochy belly. I'll gain 10 pounds, and so I have to be meat, egg, seafood, and that's it. And that's my sweet spot.
Right.
But Niesha's sweet spot's a little different.
I think what makes our kitchen work the best is that we're really team oriented. So I know what his boundaries are. He knows what my boundaries are. I'm not going to go get some cake and bring it in the house.
Yeah.
Even if I could have a piece and it wouldn't really do anything to me, I would never do that to him. And so I support him where he would never bring some Doritos into the house because those would immediately tempt me. And so we're on the same page because we know exactly what we both want. We both want each other to be healthy, and we want to be healthy. And so he's not really tempted by my cucumbers, right? Or my tomatoes. And I'm not shoving cheese down his mouth, So we really know each other's boundaries and health goals, and that really helps to make sure I'm not accidentally tempting him with something. And our family's supportive. They don't buy us things that are going to throw us off. And the kids, they eat, I would call an animal-based approach. So they eat mostly meat. They do eat some fruit from time to time. They don't like vegetables because kids don't like vegetables. So they don't eat those. And they drink goat milk. That's their primary source of nutrition after they were breastfed, and we drink a lot of water. So our house is just not full of temptation. And even though we technically have different diets, it's really not that different. Right. We mostly eat meat, and the things that are on the side are not products or processed foods.
Yeah, we were talking about, homesteading, and you're relatively, the past few years, you all been homesteading with a lot of animals on your land. I guess, how does that play a role? You're talking about your kids eating a primarily animal-based approach, drinking goat's milk and such. People will say that these animal foods are unhealthy, saturated fat, cholesterol, and choline, whatever you can get into. But, if you're living a primarily local, ancestrally consistent approach, foods that you can only get in your local environment, because we didn't always have foods being shipped across the world and all that sort of stuff. It only makes sense to me intuitively, but how does that play a role in your lives of just sourcing as much local food as you can and the nutrient density that provides?
Yeah, I think one of the primary initial motivators was that we both love to be perfectly authentic and consistent. And so if we're going to be eating this meat-heavy diet, then we also love planet Earth. We love humanity. We love animals. We love, our biosphere. And so we don't want to do anything to harm that at all. And so if anybody's worried about those bigger picture things, then you should just intuitively know you need to be buying things as locally as you can. Eating a steak that was raised 10 minutes from your house versus eating a steak that was raised in New Zealand or Argentina obviously has a smaller carbon footprint. And so we wanted to be authentic. We wanted to be true to what we were saying. And I think it's a perfect marriage. Eating a proper human diet, you want to live a proper human life. And so then when you start looking at history and in the past, it's like, well, how did humans live? What did they do? Well, they had animals, and they shepherded animals, and those animals worked for the farmer or the rancher, and then they fed the farmer or the rancher. That's how it's literally always been since the beginning of time. And we wanted to mimic that. We wanted to live that authentic life. And so I feel like it was just a natural extension to say, we eat meat, you know what, we should raise meat. Let's do that.
And to be fair, we're not perfectly local yet. We're still working on that. And we're still, I told you earlier, we're half-ass homesteaders because we traveled so much. But another reason we wanted to do it is because we know not everyone can afford to support local ranchers and buy a whole cow. Yeah. And it's our responsibility as people who can afford that to support those ranchers so that they can continue to raise those beef cattle on regenerative land. And it's also fun once you get into it. The chickens laying the eggs, but it's a lot of work. Not everybody can do a homestead, and that's okay. But if you can support some local ranchers, that's a step in the right direction.
And not everybody wants to do homesteading. And if you're living in a city, you're living in a high-rise building or an apartment in the city. But I think if somebody wants to do that, there's definitely ways you can make it happen, or you can, support your local farm. That's something that we were talking about before. But I want to get more into homesteading, but my wife and I support a local farm. The Family Cow, they're amazing. They ship nationwide. Pennsylvania is very illegal with their food laws, as we were talking about. But it's incredible that we source, half of our foods, whether that's the dairy or the meats or the fermented foods that we eat or the sourdough bread, things like that, just getting as local as you can. I think that could be a great first step if you're not homesteading, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's a great resurgence, I feel like, in farmers markets. They're making a big comeback. So it's trendy now, which is really good. That's good. It's kind of annoying,
But it's still good. That's right. Yeah.
but it's good. It's good
Yes,
for everyone,
yes,
especially the farmers. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's something magic about watching your kids when they're 2 and 5 go out and just be so excited because there's some eggs in the nest, and to be so excited because that ewe that was so fat has now got 2 gorgeous little lambs running around, jumping and kicking, just to watch their eyes and to know that there are kids in the world who don't know where an egg comes from. They literally don't know. And what am I saying? There are adults who don't know where an egg comes from. They don't know what the life of a sheep or a cow should be or is. They have no idea, but yet they want to have an opinion about whether you should eat meat or not. But they truly are completely ignorant of what it takes to shepherd animals ethically and morally and lovingly, to let them live their life and be happy, but also produce food for the family. I mean, there's some magic in that.
You also, like,
Absolutely.
nothing goes to waste when you have raised an animal.
Yeah.
Because it's heartbreaking to know that,
100%.
like, you took a life and now that's going to waste, and
Yeah.
you've seen that, and you don't have the disconnect that a lot of people do. When they go to the grocery store, they just pick up the meat and they don't understand the process. But when you raise an animal and it has that one bad day and then
Yeah.
it's on your table, you're gonna make the most of that meat. You're gonna make the most of the bones, the organs.
Absolutely.
As
all
our
of that.
ancestors have always done it, in a world of food scarcity where they didn't know where their next meal or calorie was coming from, it
Nothing
wouldn't have
went
made
to
sense
waste.
for them to waste calories. And I was talking with Dr. Bill Schindler, who I mentioned before. He did a study several years back at his university that he found that when he studied the average hunter, that the average hunter wastes about 50% of calories with every deer that they harvest.
The modern hunter.
The
you
modern
mean.
hunter.
Yeah,
Yes,
It
not
is.
ancestrally,
Yes.
but
It's
modern.
ridiculous. Yeah.
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 So I think it's important. I mean, not just from the morally, kind of ethically perspective, but the nutritional component of it. But a lot of those the organs are going to waste because we're just harvesting the fillets, which are delicious.
The tenderloin,
the
backstrap,
tenderloin,
backstrap,
of
yeah.
course, which they have their place. But
course,
you could
yeah.
probably talk to the different nutrient profiles that the organs have versus the muscle meats and the glandulars and all that. Why is that so important? Is eating an animal nose to tail? It's ancestrally consistent, but for our health, modern day health purposes, why is that so important?
I think it's ancestrally consistent, but I think we have a heightened responsibility to be as ethical and moral as we can, because our ancestors maybe couldn't do any better than they did because they were stuck in a bind. It was either do what you do or you starve to death. We have options today. And so Niesha's dad, Pedro, is an avid deer hunter and turkey hunter. And I don't even have to remind him. Every time he harvests a buck or a tom, he brings a Ziploc bag with the heart and the liver to me. And then we've got a freezer full. And then the rest of the carcass, after he's gotten those choice bits that he loves, which is the backstrap and the tenderloin, then if you've got chickens and dogs, nothing should go to waste, right? Because the chickens are going to recycle that into eggs. And the dogs are going to guard your farm and bark and keep away the coyotes. And so it really just becomes a beautiful circle or cycle where nothing is wasted and everything has a purpose. And then when you start to look at the nutrient profile of meat, you've got your CAFO raised beef that is going to be higher in omega-6 and less high in omega-3s. It's not going to be as vitamin and mineral dense as a cow that lived a cow's life and ate grass and weeds, or a sheep that ate grass and weeds and tree forage, tree fodder. They're just going to have more nutrition. There's just no way around that, because the poor feedlot beef is being fed leftover Skittles and leftover breakfast cereal and very nutrient poor things. You cannot, that cow, ruminants may be magic, but they're not that magic. They're still only going to be able to have the vitamins and minerals that they ate themselves. And so I think that when you start to eat pasture raised, pasture finished, no antibiotic, no hormone, I think the level of nutrition just scales up to a degree. And then when you have that ultimate nutrition that also marries with the ethics and the morality, when you have that whole package, it really is an amazing thing.
Yeah, and that's the importance, in my opinion, of sourcing as locally as you can, because you're removing links from your food chain. Then you can see where the eggs are coming from. You can see where the cuts of beef are coming from.
Yeah.
And you're cutting links out of the food chain. So you're getting direct from the farm or the farmer's market. And there's such value in that. And you mentioned earlier a proper human diet. And I was curious what you meant by that. What is a proper human diet? Is that nose to tail? You're primarily carnivore. Can you explain a little bit about
so
that?
I'm primarily carnivore,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean everybody needs to be primarily carnivore. So we actually have come up with 11 different principles of a proper human diet. And a proper human diet can be low carb, it can be ovo-lacto-pescatarian, or it can be keto, or it can be ketovore. This is the mother of ketovore. Or it can be carnivore. It can even be lion diet. That's the spectrum of a proper human diet. A proper human diet is going to be ancestrally appropriate, which we've already talked about, right? But plants and animals meet that criteria because humans are obviously omnivores. We've eaten whatever we needed to eat to not starve to death
Right.
for millions of years, right? A proper human diet is uninflammatory. There are foods in the modern food system, I wouldn't actually call them foods,
Yeah.
pseudo foods, frankenfoods.
Frankenfood,
Yeah, that obviously cause inflammation. There's no doubt about it that they cause inflammation. Sometimes that inflammation manifests in your skin, sometimes your gut, sometimes your joints, sometimes your mental health.
Thyroid.
Thyroid, absolutely. Any autoimmune condition is, at least in part, inflammatory in nature to some degree, right? And so we might not want to go through all 11 principles, but ancestrally appropriate, nutrient dense, uninflammatory, a diet that does not increase your risk of disease, a diet that reverses chronic diseases that the average doctor would say is chronic and progressive. But when you start eating wherever you fall on the proper human diet spectrum, not only are you eating foods you love and enjoy, but also those chronic medical things that you thought were permanent keep getting less and less severe. That's how you know that you're at your sweet spot on the proper human diet spectrum.
He mentioned Ketovore. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so back in 2020 is when I started doing what I eat in a day vlogs. My stepdaughters told me that was trending and I needed to do it. And I think I said carnivore in a few videos, and then I got reamed out in the comments because I had onions on my plate. And I was like, well, this isn't keto because I mostly eat meat. But apparently I can't say carnivore because the people are going to come for me because I had onions on the plate. So I was like, I'll just call it Ketovore. Doesn't really mean anything. I just made it up. But it's not because I eat this way because I want to. I don't think that the cucumbers and the onions and the garlic and the tomato add anything to the nutrient. Like, I don't think I need those to be healthy. I just enjoy them.
Yeah.
I'm not terrified of getting scurvy. I don't think I need vitamin C if I'm carnivore. I think carnivore is the perfect diet. I just get bored and I like a few little things on the side and they don't bother me. There are some things that I eat like tomatoes. There are a lot of people with sensitivity to tomatoes and those people should not eat tomatoes. But while I support carnivore, I'm never going to get on the plants are trying to kill us boat. Because I feel like that's a bit of an extremist point of view and it's very polarizing. And I don't think plants are what got us here as a society with all the metabolic health and issues that we have. It was definitely the frankenfood, as you said. And now, because we're all super inflamed and sick, plants tend to irritate us more.
Yeah, and I think there are some plant foods that are not
sure.
foods. They're commodities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I say, and that resonates with some people, is don't eat commodities. Eat food. So wheat, rice, oats, corn, beans, sugar,
Soy.
soy, these are commodities,
Right.
right? These are things you put on a cargo ship and ship to another country. That's not food. Food is something that grows locally and something that will spoil in just a few days. That's real food. Commodities make the big corporations billions of dollars in profit, and they also make billions of people fat and sick and fatigued and miserable. That's not real human food. And so I love Niesha's honesty, and I think more influencers need to start to follow that model. most people, if they like a certain food or that's their jam, then they're going to try to justify that should be your jam too. And Nisha's like, I don't think there's any magic in the tomatoes or the cucumbers. I just like them,
Yeah.
and they don't cause inflammation for me.
That's a
Yes.
good point.
A huge point, right? And so she has the liberty of eating those, but you never will see her on a video saying, now you must eat your cucumbers or you'll develop some scurvy or something,
Right.
because that's ridiculous. And we try not to be ridiculous.
We try.
We try.
As you made the point, I mean, we didn't get into our metabolic health issues that we have because of
Plants.
like unprocessed plant
Exactly.
foods. Make the distinction because you go up in any aisle down at the grocery store, most of the ultra processed foods are the commodities, the highly subsidized corn, soy, wheat, vegetable oils,
Exactly.
foods like that. That's largely what is exacerbating the issues. And
That's 80% of some people's diets. 80% of all their diet is those commodities.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
We were talking about accidentally plant-based earlier, and that's most Americans are accidentally plant-based because they think because they're not vegan or they're not saying they're plant-based that they're not plant-based, but all the things on the shelf
Yeah.
are
yeah.
mostly made of plant.
Yeah.
Like there's no
Yeah.
animal protein
If you
in
eat
that stuff.
if you eat a standard American diet, you're 70% plant-based.
yeah.
70 to 75% plant-based. But it's the commodity plants.
Right.
It's not actual real vegetables and fruits and berries that you're eating. You're eating the grains, the beans, the vegetable seed oils, and the sugar. Because out of those four ingredients, you can literally make anything in the supermarket. It's shelf stable for a year or two. Bacteria won't even eat it, so you don't have to worry about it spoiling. And it's there, and it seems fresh to people who don't know better, even though it's 2.5 years old.
doesn't spoil.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple different types of plant-based. There's the ultra-processed food plant-based, but then there's maybe the more health-conscious that are actually eating whole, unprocessed plant foods, leafy greens, and the tomatoes and the onions, but they're minimizing their red meat and their dairy fat and their animal products.
Yeah.
What are the risks and the problems with that approach? Are there risks? Are there problems with that approach? And is it unfounded? I mean, should they be avoiding the animal products? Maybe, they're avoiding because they think the saturated fat or the cholesterol is bad. Is this unfounded just to eat a plant-based diet because of the red meat issues that we might be having?
There's so many angles, right, that red meat's attacked. But I think let's just talk about the average person who's plant-based. They have a heart. They have emotions. And to them, it feels wrong to eat an animal that loves its babies, obviously, and the babies loves the mama, and the baby drinks milk just like human babies, and they're warm-blooded, and they're furry and cute. And I totally understand that. And that's why I made room on the proper human diet spectrum for ovo-lacto-pescatarian, because I get it. People draw the line at different places, right? Some people will eat beef and they'll eat pork and chicken, but if you said, hey, let's have some rattlesnake, they'd be like, no, although we've both had that multiple times, right? If you say, let's eat crocodiles, let's eat bugs, let's eat crickets, they'd be like, no. Everybody has their line in the sand where they will eat this, but they're just not going to eat that. And so I totally understand that some people don't want to eat mammals. And I get that. That's an emotional decision. But it's still their decision. It's their body. And so I think there is a place, because that's what effectively we're saying, the red meat. You don't want to eat mammals. You don't want to eat animals that have emotions and that obviously can feel pain and that obviously may be sentient. I totally get that argument. You don't have to. And you can still eat a proper human diet. But being vegan's never the right answer for anybody. But if you're willing to include some fish and some dairy and some eggs, and watch out for the vegetables, because some people have quite an inflammatory reaction to some vegetables, right? And so if you're willing to do the work, do the experimentation, you can find out, yes, I can be an ovo-lacto-pescatarian, but I need to avoid these vegetables, but I can eat these and it's fine. There you go. There's your proper human diet, and you didn't harm a mammal.
I've always kind of said, I don't know where I got this from, but I've said you don't want to let your ideology override your biology. And
Exactly.
people get so into their beliefs
Yeah.
that maybe they're harming themselves nutritionally, and they
Blatantly,
think this is
yes.
the right way, but they don't listen to what their symptoms are expressing, whether their skin issues are getting cold often or their hair's thinning, but maybe all they do is need to include a little bit more nutrient-dense foods because their diet isn't including those nutrients.
Yes.
Right?
There's so many reasons people eat the way they eat: religious, spiritual, cultural, social,
Yeah.
emotional, and it's hard for us as humans to just separate that and be like, what do I need? What does my body need? What do I perform best on?
Yeah.
Because we're not all, WNBA or NBA players. We're not thinking about performance. We're just
Right.
going about our daily lives. But it's important to consider that in the long term, your performance is what's going to keep you out of the nursing home,
Yeah.
able to go to the bathroom, take a shower, get your clothes on. That's performance. And that's the most important Olympics on the face of the planet is
Living life.
living life and being able to do those activities of daily living till the good Lord takes you home.
If you're, whatever diet you're currently eating, if you're like, no, I feel great, my energy's great, I'm sleeping great, I don't have any medical problems, I don't take any prescriptions, good, keep doing that.
Yeah.
But when that changes, that's when it's time to grow up, get serious, and say, okay, maybe what I eat actually matters more than I wish that it did, because it does. And at some age, for some people, that's literally 10 years old, and for some people, that's 50. They can live on Doritos and Pepsi until they're 50 and smoke every day. And then all of a sudden, their health, they're like, oh my God, I'm not healthy anymore. But that happens for some people very, very early in life. 80 to 85% of the time, it's because of what you're eating and drinking. There are definitely other factors, but that's the major factor the majority of the time.
What would you say are some of the biggest lifestyle shifts that modern humans need to make in order to live like our ancestors again? And when I say live like our ancestors, I mean healthy, thriving, not chronic disease.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of those shifts that we need to make today?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So many.
So many, but then really if you distill them down, it's
The
just a few
basics.
big basic categories, right? Because nobody wants to live in a cave and be covered in bed bugs and lice and not take a bath for a year. Nobody's advocating that, right? What we're saying is that the human body is an ancient organism. We are an ancient species. Our DNA is no different from your 200th great-great-grandfather who lived 10,000 years ago. You and he, literally, if you gave him a bath, shaved him, put these clothes on, I would be like, he favors you. You guys kind of look the same because he was the same. But if you took your 200th great-grandfather and cleaned him up and put him in modern society and you tried to feed him some of these foods, he would be repelled. Right? He'd be like, what the hell is this? This is not food. Why are you eating this, boy? But at the same time, you don't want to go back in time and live exactly the lifestyle he lived. What we want to mimic about that ancient ancestor is the food that they ate. Now, many of the species that they ate are extinct now, but what humans have actually done by domesticating ruminant animals is we were, even though we didn't know that's what we were doing, we were mimicking that diet. And so we've evolved these cows and these sheep and these goats to have this fatty ruminant meat that our ancestors used to crave and used to hunt every day, right? Did they ever eat plants? Of course they did. When the nuts were ripe, they ate a few nuts. When the berries were ripe, they gorged on them. When they found a honey tree, they braved the stings and they ate all the honey and laid around in a sugar coma for 24 hours. But what did they eat on a daily basis? What did they hunt daily? It was fatty meat. It was seafood if they lived near the ocean. It was fish if they lived near the river. It was crustaceans. It was mollusks. It was poultry, right? If they happened to live near a jungle where chickens evolved from, they ate jungle fowl. They ate meat as much and as often as they could, and paleoanthropology makes this very clear in their research. There's really no room for argument if you know what you're talking about. So you want to mimic the diet. You want to mimic the morning sun lifestyle. You want to be out in the sun. The sun's not bad for you. The sun's good for you, right? You want to mimic that, being outside, playing in the sun. You want to be active. You don't want to be completely sedentary. You don't want to sit for 10 hours a day. You want to get up and move around. You want to lift heavy things. You want to run fast. You want to be active in the bedroom. You don't want that to not be part of your life. You want to be reproductive, whether you're actually reproducing or not. You can at least practice, right? And so there's just a few key principles like that,
Yeah.
that when you mimic those, you're going to get 80 or 90% of the benefit of an ancestrally appropriate life without the bed bugs and the lice and the chiggers and the ticks.
I think it's interesting when people bring up topics like this that they're always when someone like Ken and is like, well, eat ancestral, and they're like, yeah, well, we died when we were 33 back then.
Right.
Or,
Classic argument.
our longevity is through the roof now. Look how long humans live for now, but no one talks about how sick they are. Like, who cares if you're 99 if you don't know who you are?
Yeah. Yeah.
And humans are incredibly hard to kill. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, look
True.
at the stuff that we have been fed for how long? And
Right.
most of us live pretty long, comparatively speaking, to ancestral people, but we're very, very sick. And so I think it's interesting that people want to discount the ancestral thing just because life expectancy is now higher than it's
Yeah.
been in a long time. But I know from experience working in nursing homes that
Health
That
span,
doesn't matter.
Health span is way down.
it's horrible.
I mean,
We
Yeah,
don't just
yeah.
want you to live a long time. We want you to live.
I would argue that our
A long
health
time.
span is not as long as the health span of our ancestors 100,000 years ago. Now, lifespan, yes, because of a few key biological, technological, medical innovations, right? Clean water, sanitation, antibiotics, surgical procedures. That's what's increased our lifespan. But now, if you look at the lifespan in the United States, even though we spend so much money on healthcare and on supplements and on pharmaceuticals, our lifespan is tanking, especially compared to other countries who still get out in the sun, eat a more organic, ancestral diet. They have better relationships, and they don't spend all this money on healthcare and pharmaceuticals and supplements. They don't spend that money.
For as much as we have in the States, we should be the healthiest people,
Oh,
but our
yes.
disease rates are through the roof.
We have the most convenience of anything. I mean, the fast food drive-throughs, the
Yes.
access to food, calories.
Yeah,
I'll say
right, calories.
nutrients we don't have. We do have access to, but we're getting a lot of excess calories. But
And what that leaves you with is malnourished obesity,
Right.
malnourished diabetes. That's
Yeah.
what you're left with.
Yeah, you can eat a lot and get absolutely no nutrition out of it. And that's what some people just don't understand. Just because you're eating food doesn't mean your body is absorbing any nutrition from that,
You can
especially if
be-
there's none to be
you
had.
can be overweight or obese and still malnourished,
Yes.
Absolutely.
vitamin
Yes.
and mineral deficient.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is the main problem in the United States is that we are obese, malnourished, diabetic malnourished. We're not getting any of the actual nutrients that we need, but we've got all this food.
Well, what would you say are a couple whole foods that actually would replace some of those nutrients that people are deficient in?
So if you go back and look at a restaurant menu from the 1910s or the 1890s, there are multiple options for organ meat.
Wow.
In just a regular restaurant, right? It's just a regular family restaurant you would go to. They've got different kinds of liver. They got sweetbreads. They got brains and eggs for breakfast. Literally, when we were kids, you could get brains and eggs in Tennessee at a restaurant
I mean,
for breakfast.
We had them routinely at home.
Yeah, yeah. And so Granny Barry didn't cook brains, but,
My
but
granny did.
Nana Marie cooked brains and
Wow.
eggs for breakfast. And for years, Niesha thought it was a joke.
I thought they just called it brains and eggs.
But it was actually
Sure,
brains.
of course it was. Why else would you cook? But I was little, and one day I was eating them, and I was like, "Man, these are good. I'm so glad there's not real brains in here." My grandma looked at me, and she was like, "Why do you think it's called brains and eggs if there wasn't brains in there?" And I was like,
Wow.
"There's really brain. It's delicious, very salty, very good,
Yep.
and probably super nutritious." But
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
think, if you were a big food manufacturer, you would want to make food, in quotes, out of the cheapest stuff that you can make that's shelf stable, that's shippable, that's transportable, that you're going to get a huge markup on. That's the exact opposite of organ meat, right? And so also as a big food manufacturer, you would love to help gently persuade people that organ meat's gross, that no cool people eat that. That's nasty. That's something your grandmother did. It's the same argument that Crisco used to make women stop using lard.
Wow.
That's old fashioned. That's what your grandmother did. You don't do that. You're modern. You're hip. You're cool. You're whatever. So they're using that same argument, and it makes young people be grossed out. Like, you eat brains, you eat liver, heart. What? What's wrong with you? that is the most nutrient-dense food that a human being can eat, and it is the very foods that our ancestors prized, optimized. They would save certain organs just for the women who were pregnant, just for the women who were breastfeeding. Certain organs went exclusively to the lead hunters in the party. They got first dibs. There's a reason for that. That's why they were, what if we went back to that time, they would look like superhumans to us as far as their strength, their stamina, their endurance. We would not be able to keep up with your 200th great-grandfather. He would kick our ass because he was eating nothing but nutrient density when he could get food, and he lived a proper human life. And so he was an optimal human male.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just, I always hear you say things like that, and it makes me feel like it's just disrespectful not to eat good quality meat when our ancestors had to fight tooth and nail, live through
100%.
famine, go through the winter with no heat, still get out there, hunt, bring something home, and we have the luxury of just going down the road and picking it up, but we want to.
But you're going to choose cornflakes. Really?
Right.
Really?
You know,
Come on.
we don't even have to fight for it unless we just choose to go hunt. We can
Or
just go
choose
to the grocery
be a
store.
rancher.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you literally don't have to do anything but roll out of bed, scratch your butt, call an Uber, or call Uber Eats, and they'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do
The
anything.
convenience. It's the convenience.
And then you're going to choose the crappiest pseudo Franken food that you can choose.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
ridiculous.
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Niesha, you were telling me earlier that living a more ancestral lifestyle, putting these practices that we just talked about, actually helped fertility and postpartum with you during that time of your life. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right when we figured out I had autoimmune Hashimoto's was when we were going through IVF. And we gave it another year of eating. We were doing keto at the time. Maybe you were already doing carnivore, but I was like, no, we're not doing that. Then we followed Dr. Kiltz, and he was promoting carnivore. He's a fertility specialist. And so right before we did our IVF, I went carnivore just to see. Maybe we get lucky. We didn't, but it did prime my body, I think, to be very healthy. We only had one egg, just the one. And we were successful and had a successful pregnancy, and Beckett was healthy. And I did as close to keto as I could during that first pregnancy, but it wasn't great. Had a hard time. And then after I had Beckett, I went straight back to carnivore because I knew as a woman, when you get pregnant, you're way more prone to having thyroid issues pop up after pregnancy, and I really wanted to help my body recover. I craved liver through both of my pregnancies, but then I went back to eating heavy meat again. I healed pretty well, breastfed successfully, and I continued to do this meat-based Ketovore thing. And then Beckett had just turned 2, and we hadn't got pregnant, and we thought we would do one more kid, give it another try. But I decided I'd had enough. Beckett was a lot. No more kids. You need to go get.
Had the conversation. You need to go see the plumber.
You need to go to the
I'm like,
urologist.
okay, fine. If you're done, we'll be done.
And 6 weeks later, I was pregnant
Wow.
naturally, and I had been
Wow.
eating very, very meat heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more meat heavy than I currently am. And I was working out, eating very high fat, and I was skinny. I mean, everybody was giving me a lot of crap, like, you're too thin, you're too thin. I think I was 100 pounds. Clearly, my body thought I was fine because I got pregnant, and we had Bonnie Blue 9 months later, and exclusively breastfed with her too. And I just had, it had to be that I was eating meat heavy because I'd been on and off carnivore and keto, but that year I was really meat heavy.
Yep.
You were sending your body signs of abundance, is what I like to call it.
Exactly
You're putting
right.
your body, your biology in a safe place to let you know that this is okay to bring a child into this world. That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah.
My wife and I told you guys we were recently pregnant, and that's something that we focused on, was eating a very animal-based style diet and living, ancestral principles, and it's been amazing for us thus far.
Yeah.
What role did beef organs play in your fertility and the entire story with your pregnancy?
I think anytime you are eating something as nutrient dense as beef and beef organs, your body is going to thank you. And I think that was my body's response to me implementing those, because I was taking ancestral supplements during that time period. I was doing a lot of biohacking when I got pregnant with Bonnie. Like I said, I was just so, you can look back at my pictures, I was skinny. I was trying to build muscle. I was doing all these things. And I think just giving my body all those nutrients and moving my body just really prime the pump
Yeah, absolutely.
to have a successful
Yeah.
window of opportunity for my body to be like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
good. Let's have a baby. And then during my pregnancy, I craved liver. Naturally, I just would crave liver,
Raw fish.
raw meat.
Yep. Raw
I
meat.
ate a
Yep.
lot of things that
I made her a lot of steak tartare
Wow.
and a lot of sashimi
pate
and pates. Yep.
Things that might be look
taboo.
Yeah,
You
in
shouldn't eat
today's
that.
culture.
Exactly. And I ate it all through my entire pregnancy. Never had any issues whatsoever. After I had Bonnie, I did the placenta and more liver because you lose a lot of blood when you have a baby. And you're also giving a lot of nutrients to the baby.
Yeah.
So I was doing a really good job eating really well with Bonnie. So she was getting her nutrients and I was maintaining. If you don't do that, the baby just takes it all and then you're left kind of like an empty husk and you have to really rebuild your supplies. So eating beef liver after that can help. All of that, especially the liver, because of your iron. A lot of women get anemic. You're exhausted, and that just kind of is almost like a cheat code to recovery. And anything else that
There's so many angles we could go off that. The most common cause of infertility is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which has nothing to do with the cysts. It has to do with hyperinsulinemia and chronic inappropriate inflammation. That's the most common cause of infertility, 80% cause. And no woman ever developed PCOS because she was eating too much meat and too much organ meat. Literally no. If you did a survey, which the gynecologists and obstetricians have done this, when you poll women with PCOS, what's your average diet? It's 70% commodity plants. Like they're literally living on the standard American diet. Wow. So you would say, okay, well maybe if you did the opposite of that, that might help heal your body, lower your insulin, lower the inflammation, and increase your fertility if you ate lots of meat, eggs, and seafood. And indeed, specialists like Dr. Robert Kiltz, who's board certified fertility specialist, he puts every mom who comes into his clinic trying to conceive on high-fat carnivore.
Wow.
And
Liver, and the dads. That's another thing that doesn't get
crucial.
talked about a lot is sperm count, sperm quality, sperm motility. All of that increases as well on a proper human diet consisting mainly of fatty cuts of meat. And so fertility is an excellent signal that you're doing enough things right that your ancient DNA trusts that now's a good time for you to reproduce. Now there seems to be enough nutrition that you could not only not starve to death, but you could keep another human alive as well. So let's go ahead and pull the levers and let you get pregnant. But if you're living on a nutrient void, plant-based diet, full of calories but empty of nutrition, what signal are you sending your body? You're literally telling your body this is not a good time to get pregnant. Whether you're the dad or the mom, it matters.
That's a great point. I have a couple more questions for the both of you before we wrap up. If you're eating the proper human diet, are there any risks to overconsumption of organ meats, vitamin A toxicity in liver, or anything like that people might commonly be concerned with?
No. The end. That's it. That's literally the answer. And I'll explain a little. So I am constantly researching and digging into the medical literature and the nutrition literature. That's literally what I do for how many hours a day?
all day.
There has not been a single documented case in the entirety of the medical literature of somebody developing vitamin A toxicity from eating the livers of domesticated animals. Now, there is a couple of case reports from polar bear liver. There's a fish in Japan that if you eat its liver, you'll get vitamin A toxicity. Basically, any carnivore, you don't want to eat their liver. But the liver of ruminants, of poultry, venison, of any animal that's domesticated that we routinely eat. Literally, not a single documented case ever in the over 100 years of medical literature. And case reports are something doctors love to write up. They say something weird. This guy, he was eating 5 pounds of beef liver a day for months and months and months. He got vitamin A toxic. I'm going to write that case up and get it published somewhere. It's an easy write up, and you get published, right? There's not a single case. Only eating the liver of animals that you shouldn't be eating their liver, and it's well known to all the natives in that area that you should not eat that animal's liver.
Also very hard to get that liver.
Yeah,
Are you taking on a polar bear? Not me.
Exactly, right. Now, there are multiple cases of people taking vitamin A supplements who developed vitamin A toxicity. Exactly, right. Because then now you're trusting a manufacturing company who knows who they are to get the amount right? But there is not a single documented case ever in the literature. And I defy anybody, please send me a case, because I've been looking for 10 years.
I'm sure fresh is best when it comes to beef organs, and you're sourcing as locally as you can. But would you say that getting your organs in desiccated freeze-dries form is an alternative, is just as good, or a little bit, is it all right to get those in if you can't get fresh?
Yeah, I think it's not as good as fresh. I think we need to be honest about that and straightforward. But I think that if you currently are just repulsed by the thought of eating beef liver or other livers, then take the desiccated liver, right? So 6 capsules is like eating 1 ounce of liver. And if you do that 3 or 4 times a week, or, if you're like 6 capsules, that's too much. Well, okay, take 2, take 3, because then you're eating, a third of an ounce or a half ounce of liver a day. That is going to be infinitely better than not getting any liver at all. And eating an ounce of liver a day, you're never going to develop any hypervitaminosis, A, E, D, K, any of them, never with 1 ounce a day. That's just going to be technically impossible.
And Ancestral freeze dries, right? That's your freeze drying part. That's as close to fresh as you can get.
Exactly.
So like it's the closest thing to fresh. So that's a good place to start if you're not gonna pick the slimy liver up
until you can grow up and eat your liver.
I love it. Well, that's what I have for you today, Dr. Ken and Neisha Berry. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a wealth of knowledge. We learned so much from you guys. Thank you for everything that you guys do. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.